Welcome to Inside Aesthetics, the world's leading podcast for aesthetic medical practitioners and injectors. I'm Dr. Jake Sloan, a Sydney-based doctor, speaker and trainer with over 17 years of experience.
And I'm David Siegel, an aesthetic business entrepreneur and mentor with over 20 years of experience in our industry. Our podcast is aimed at medical professionals only, and we share industry insights from leading experts. Our podcasts are general in nature and should not be used by prospective patients for any medical advice or treatment decision-making. All patients should have a consultation with a medical professional and have a bespoke consultation before proceeding with any treatment.
You can also subscribe to our Patreon for on-demand educational content, videos, business coaching, and networking with over 350 other injectors from around the world.
Hey guys, welcome to chapter 28 of the Injector Diaries. And I'm super pumped about today's guest because we have been chasing this man for years to come onto our podcast. He's been playing very hard to get. I recently ran into Shino at the BTS conference in Sweden and finally cornered him and got him to say yes to come on and join us for a podcast episode because you're a larger than life character. The industry knows you. They are interested in what you have to say. You've got some very interesting philosophies on this crazy industry that we're all in. And we're really excited to hear about your story and your journey. But before we cross to you, any information that you want to talk about, Jake, before we jump in?
Yeah, well, maybe just for our new listeners, the Injector Diaries, we've been doing these for, well, this is the 28th chapter. Basically, they're all about injectors, their story, their why they're doing this, how do they train and all that kind of good stuff. So they're kind of nice and casual. One of our most popular sorts of episodes, so hopefully you enjoy it. Reminder that tonight is the last day you can apply for our competition. So you've got about another 12 hours before our competition ends. This is to get a golden ticket all the way to Cairo, Egypt with David and I. We're going to the ICCE conference. There'll be about 10,000 people going. Huge conference. And of course, you'll get a ticket to the conference as well as the gala, as well as your accommodation, as well as your flights to Cairo. So make sure you apply for our competition, guys. I guess just finally, if you like our podcast and you want to support us, just take 1 minute out of your time. Follow us on Instagram. The link is below in the podcast description. If you listen on Apple or Spotify, make sure you hit follow. And then we can track all of our followers and make sure that we get pushed up the charts. It always helps us. And if you really like us, leave us a nice review on Apple or Spotify as well. And lastly, check out our Patreon. Again, the link is below. If you don't know what Patreon is, it's an app that you can download on your phone. We do lots of on-demand content. David does lots of business mentoring and coaching. I do a lot of injectable stuff. There's tons to explore and there's a free 7-day trial. So you've got nothing to lose. Check it out.
Yeah, come and join our crazy WhatsApp community.
Yes. Now, let's introduce Shino Bay, all the way from Fort Lauderdale, America. Shino, how are you today, mate?
I'm doing great. I'm so happy. I was looking forward to this. I follow you guys on Instagram, so I know what you do, and I think you're doing a great job out there.
Thank you, my friend. Now, for people who don't know you, those people who've been living in a cave and they've never come across your work, what do they need to know about you to understand who you are and your why?
Well, maybe starting from actually was born in Panama City, Panama. And I came to the United States when I was 17 years of age with the dream of becoming a doctor in the United States. I grew up very poor, like people don't know much about my personal life, although I'm very open, but grew up very poor. And my dream was to become a doctor, to get out of poverty. I also was a very sick child with asthma. And that's where I learned about the kindness of being a physician and how they can make anybody feel good. That was something that maybe since I was 5 years old, I knew that I wanted to be a physician. I was in and out of the hospital for asthma attacks. I almost died about 3 times because since we lived remote and we had to wait for the bus to get to the hospital. And usually my asthma attacks, most parents should know this is usually around 2, 3 in the morning when there's not a lot of buses. I was always getting to the hospital just almost at my last breath. So it was very terrifying for me. And then also from hygiene, I would get boils and carbuncles and abscesses on my face. And that's where I learned about what the quality of the skin meant for people and how it made me feel. It dictated my day and it made people treat me differently. You know, I remember going into the cafeteria and people would see me and they would move away with disgust. And of course, you get your feeling hurts, but I felt like I would do the same thing if I look like that. So I wanted to become a doctor that helped people feel better physically and emotionally because of my sick childhood.
Wow. And so being inspired to be a doctor from early childhood experiences, how did that journey start for you? So you came to America from Panama. How did you sort of even get down the road of becoming a doctor? With that, I mean, it's quite difficult. And from your background, I'm sure there are lots of challenges.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I feel so spiritual guided because everything that I said I was going to do, I did. I remember that my grandma, we lived behind a bookstore and they would throw journals and I would collect them because I like to see the medical journal because you have like doctors and operations and naked people. So I would love to collect them. And then the name UCLA, which for me, I would say UCLA, it was in a lot of pages. So I would tell people, one day I'm going to go to UCLA and be a doctor from UCLA. And then my father came to the United States when I was 2.5 years old to follow his own dreams. If you know me, I'm 6 foot tall. My father's 5 foot tall. So I'm like a mutation. Thank God I look like him because I know that he's my father. But he was a professional jockey. So he came to pursue his career and he actually opened the doors for me to come easily to the United States legally. I came legally because he petitioned for me when I was 17. So he happens to live in Los Angeles, California. And UCLA is in Los Angeles, California. So I remember that he didn't know a lot about me because he didn't raise me. And I've been on my own since I was 10 years old. And so I figured that he wanted to make sure that I wasn't a troubled child because I went from place to place trying to prevent abuse and keep myself in a safe space. Because my parents, my father came to the United States, my mom remarried, and my stepfather. At that time, it was important to marry a virgin, so I guess I didn't exist for a while. And so bad things happened to me. So my dad didn't know much about my life as a child. At that point, I won a contest from American women. It's called the Optimist Women of America. And they were looking for the best young citizen of each country in Latin America. And my Spanish professor, she was my counselor, she knew my story and she said, you should apply. I'll give you a letter of recommendation. You just write an essay and see what happens. And I won. So then my name was in the radio, newspaper about the contest I won. And my dad, told me that if I wanted to come to the United States, he helped me come to the United States, live with him and get a green card. And that was my journey coming to the United States to go to UCLA.
Yeah, it's a super inspiring story, Shino. I'm always amazed at how positive you are and how much energy you bring. So thanks for being so candid and humble about it all. Why did you want to be a derm? Was it because of the skin conditions that you had previously? Is that why you chose skin?
Yeah, I learned very early that I knew I wanted to help people physically and emotionally because I was emotionally, physically abused child since early childhood. Many reasons for that, besides being sick with boil. But I also used to take care of my grandmother. She has stasis ulcers and she was overweight and she couldn't really tend and help herself cleaning the wounds. So I would clean it and I would do my own, I would mix things and trying to help her. And she's the person who raised me. So for me, I always was on the quest to trying to help her skin get better on her legs so she wouldn't have pain, so she could walk better. So being a dermatologist is the best choice to help people physically and emotionally. And I knew that that's the kind of doctor I wanted to be from right the beginning of my interest of becoming a doctor.
And where was the aesthetics industry in terms of its progression at this point in time? Were you aware of things like cosmetic injectables? Like what was the industry like at this point?
I'm very old, so that didn't exist. I think what we had for cosmetic was cream of Pond's and S cream of Pond that my grandma used to use. That's as far as my knowledge about cosmetics. I didn't learn about cosmetics until I was an intern for my family practice residency program. I wasn't aware of any cosmetic. I like to take care of my skin as somebody that suffers from ailments of the skin. I took good care of my skin. I mean, I was like probably the only 13-year-old boy that would use eye cream and moisturizers. And I feel that it paid off.
Yeah. You're not doing
I got beat up for doing that many times, but I didn't care. You know, I still thought it was important to take care of my skin. So during my internship, that's when Botox came out. And I heard about it. I saw what it would do to people. I didn't use it on myself, but I did open my own account. And then in the hospital, I told all the nurses that I would inject them for free. And I don't know, like I said, I'm even spiritual guided on that because I never jacked up anyone, even though I didn't know what I was doing. I just saw movement and I would put it right there. And when I got good or confident, I would tell because I could do 2 people with 1 vial. So at the beginning, I would do everybody for free. But then I would tell you, bring me a friend, I'll give you a little bit of a discount. So then all of a sudden, I did pretty much all the nurses are her friend in a large hospital. So I was pretty busy doing Botox after hours at the hospital. And then with that money, later Restylane came. And then I also opened an account and nobody trained me, which I think was a good thing because otherwise I would not be who I am now or creating techniques because I would model somebody else's technique. I think that really helps you not cultivate your own artistic eye when you memorize somebody else's technique. But I also, again, blessed that I never got anybody go blind or necrosis because I didn't know what I was doing. I was just creating art without knowing that the angular artery was here or the superior labial artery was here or that there was even a possibility to lose your nose or tissue or go blind. We didn't know any of that.
Yeah. It's a similar story for many people that we've had on in the past. We had Arthur Swift, Michael Caine, Gene Carruthers, these real pioneers, even before your time. They don't know these things. And Patrick Tracy. So, those people that sort of discovered this stuff and eventually created the protocols. You've kind of answered my next question. So you never had a mentor. If you're creating these own techniques on your own and luckily not having any problems, like when eventually did you formalize things and dedicate your time to training, teaching, all that kind of stuff?
I think everything started. So I was trained to be a key opinion leader for cyanosuture lasers. And that was my passion too. At the beginning of my career, I was just mesmerized by laser technology. And actually, that's another thing that fell into my lap. Cyanosuture lasers, my ex at the time worked for the company, and he would use this particular dermatologist. And she got pregnant, and we had a full room of people. That was the beginning of the aesthetic revolution of the med spa. And my job, back then, I always looked younger for my chronological age. Nobody knew that I was first-year resident in dermatology, but I was a board-certified family practitioner already. So my job was to just, take people's name, put the pamphlets on the table, and I sit on the back, and I heard that lecture like 200 times. That morning, he checked with this lady, his dermatologist, the night before. Everything's fine. That morning, she cancels like an hour right before the venue was supposed to start, and he's having a heart attack. And the room is packed, and I'm more like, listen, maybe this is the only solution, but there's no dermatologist here that can recognize that I'm a resident. There's no plastic surgeons because I used to be intimidated by plastic surgeons back then when I saw them on the list. I go, everybody's family practice, emergency medicine, OBGYN. Maybe they would like to hear from somebody like them. And you don't have to tell them that I'm a first-year resident, tell him I'm a board certified family practitioner that knows about these lasers because I do know about these lasers. I can say verbatim the lectures, and we had it on our home. So I practiced on all my friends. So I knew how to use it. And he said, are you sure? I go, well, you have any other ideas? He go for it. And I lecture, and we saw 5 lectures. And every time I lecture, we saw. So then Sino sure is like, we need to train Shino, formally train him, and they prepped me to be a key opinion leader for lasers. And I did that for 17 years until I fell in love with injectable fillers. And the one filler that's changed my life and put me on the map as who I am in the industry was Sculptra, Sculptra Aesthetics. And I started playing with the product. And in 2009, I saw that if you place PLLA, Sculptra, super periosteal, there is no need to inject the skin. You still will get changes on the skin that feels and looks more natural. But if you place PLLA super periosteal, the bone loss, bone resorption will happen a lot slower. And at that time, people didn't believe me. But now, after 20 years, plus, I have the photos. I have my family as an example. But all my patients that did PLLA, Sculptra, super periosteal, they look 15 to 20 years younger than chronological age because we slow the changes. So that was the beginning of a beautiful career on trying to teach bioregenerative aesthetic medicine, which now we're living it. It's a dream come true. But since I learned how to inject Sculptra super periosteal, and they wanted me to teach it. If I'm going to teach, everybody has to reproduce what I do. So I came out with points, the 7 points, that if you follow my 7-point steps, you should never have, and I yet have people call me with an adverse reaction that is not manageable. So from there, I started doing other techniques with other products. And I like to do that. I like to create techniques.
Cool. Well, we're going to get into your technique a little bit later. I want to know about where you practice, because you're in Fort Lauderdale, right? That's in Florida.
Yes.
Now, my parents go to America every year, and I think they've got friends in Fort Lauderdale. And from what I hear, it's kind of like a sleepy backwater for retirees. So is that wrong? And why are you there if that's true?
Actually, it was like that 20 years ago.
Okay.
So now, if you come to Fort Lauderdale, it's a walking city, and mainly young professionals that live here. So when you go outside, I feel bad because you see all these guys shirtless walking and running, looking amazing. All these beautiful girls also running, but everybody has a dog. So it has changed significantly. It is actually a very young city now. We're full of young professionals.
Okay, so is that your demographic then? Do you treat positive ages? Do you treat all ages? Like, also, how many men come to you? Because of course, you're an attractive guy who looks amazing. So maybe you attract sort of a different crowd. Just tell us about your clinic.
Thank you. No, you think so? No, I see maybe my patients are older, like 40 plus. Mm-hmm. And then for 9 years, I didn't take any new patients at all. I didn't take new patients for 9 years, mainly because I travel so much. But I saw my practice, so I'm required to see now new patients. But I still, if they're very young, I send it to the young junior doctors that we have here, because I cannot relate to millennials, and I cannot relate with patients that are younger than millennials. I like to party with them because I steal their collagen energetically. That's why I stay young. But I party with any millennial or younger, but I don't treat them because I just don't, we don't see eye to eye.
Yeah. Well, before we talk about, your philosophy and your injecting techniques and so on, be good to get your opinion of where we're at right now as an industry, because there's a lot changing. We've had a huge reduction in filler use globally. There's different reasons why that's happened. You said you're very well known for, I guess, pioneering a lot of sculpture treatments, and that's kind of how you've built your name and your profile. We're still largely unregulated. We've got a lot more products on the market now. So we've got more bioremodelers, biostimulators, exosomes, polynucleotides. The media loves writing negative stories about our industry. So it'd be good to get your just overall view of where we're at as an industry and sort of what you think we could potentially be doing better to give ourselves like a better reputation out there in the general public.
Yeah. So the first thing I want to say, so more people I use a lot of injectable fillers of the HA type, hyaluronic acid. So I have nothing against them. What I have a problem with is the abuse of it. That's one. Abuse of injectable fillers and making people look weird. That's one. Two, I also feel that industry should understand that we are in the year 2025 and we understand aging at a cellular level. And they should honor how far we've come. And fillers are not the holy grail of anti-aging. They are structural enhancers. They've always been, and they should stay like that. But to promise somebody that they're going to stay younger or this is anti-aging, to me, is not being 100% honest, because you can make them appear younger for a finite period of time before you turn them to look weird. If you are shrinking, so aging is an implosion of tissue. So your bone is shrinking, and you say, I have a filler with a high G prime. I can imitate bone with that. Then you start losing your fat. No worries. I have a filler. A lot softer. Softer feels like fat. I can help with that. The quality of the skin is not so good. You need to glow. I have another filler you put on the skin. And all of a sudden, people start becoming less human tissue and more synthetic gel. You don't need to be a rocket scientist to know that that's not going to look natural at one point. So my philosophy is I know how to bring fat back on the face without fat grafting. I know how to preserve the architecture of the bone. And I need to increase all the molecules in the extracellular matrix, collagen, elastic fibers, glycoproteins, to make a skin to physiological and structurally and biologically behave and look younger. So I will do that first, and then I will enhance whatever I cannot do. I think that is the way that we should practice aesthetic medicine in the year 2025 and beyond.
So what do you say to those patients who come to your clinic who maybe have been treated elsewhere, or maybe even by one of your colleagues? They look a little bit augmented. We discussed this on a recent podcast. Like it's a challenge because effectively it's a taste thing to some extent. Your taste might not be their taste or someone else's taste, but ultimately you as the practitioner are in control of that consultation. And if you want to say no or yes to something, that's in your control. So how do you juggle that dilemma of essentially saying to someone, I don't agree with that plan. I don't agree with your style. It's my way or the highway. What do you do with that?
Yeah, no, I like to educate my patients too. If you come to my practice, we have TVs and most of the things that I show is me educating about everything I do. A lot of patients, even to this day, don't know that the way you look like grandma and grandpa, elderly, they tell you bone disintegrates on your face. They have no idea. Yeah. Most people really think that it's the skin, and it's the skin that makes you look old, or now the volume. So I educate them, and it makes sense. I'm truly honest, it makes sense to explain that. If you are 50 plus, the aging process is happening now on your bone. And everything that happens on decades before is happening even at a worse rate. So once they get educated and they get that aha moment that, oh my God, it is true. We do lose bone. I can see it. I can feel it. Well, and I have a solution for it. They're going to say, yeah, I don't want to just appear younger. I want to stay young. And I can bioregenerate. That's why it resonates with people that come with me. Most people are coming and they find me because they get me. They get like, I don't want to just appear younger. I did that. And I look weird. I breathed. I needed wings to come out of my neck and put in a church because I messed myself up at 35 trying to be proactive. So if you educate the patients and tell them that, yes, we can do fillers to enhance, but let's bioregenerate. Now, if you're 20-something, 30-something, I will use as much fillers as they would want. They're really not changing on the deeper tissues. And they're young, so I'm not going to abuse anything on them. But if you have a 50, 60 plus, and you filling them with a synthetic gel that came from a machine to imitate that human tissue, we're creating what I call transhumanism in aesthetics, where they are more synthetic gel than human tissue.
Yeah. Something that a lot of injectors struggle with is the consultation process. And you kind of alluded to it a little bit in the previous question. But would you be able to walk us through just briefly how you approach a consult with a new patient in terms of, I guess, establishing that rapport, taking control of the conversation, getting permission to educate them on certain things? Because I know a lot of injectors, particularly those that are new, they struggle with being able to take control of that conversation. A patient comes in, they're quite educated these days, a lot of them. Everyone's got a supercomputer in their pocket. And they know what they want. They know where they want it done. And some injectors find it very difficult to be able to take control of that conversation. So with all your experience, do you have any advice on that and how you do it in your clinic?
I have a solution, and it's pretty simple. I don't know what the consultation process is in everybody's clinic, but I do have a cosmetic consultant, right? She greets the patient, brings it to her office, and she said, before we begin, Dr. Shino Bay would like you to watch a 7-minute video. And she plays the video, she goes and do something else, maybe prep to see the next consultation. And the video talks about the aging process in a simple way with before and after, what that looks like. So I break it down. Aging is architectural changes. After age 18, you lose about 1 to 2% of collagen on your skin, all the way until you get to 45, you lost about 25%, and your skin starts feeling loose or saggy or lax. When you enter the 40s, now you don't look as fresh as the 30s and 20s, but you don't look elderly. It's just the tired version of yourself. And that has to do with volume loss from the fat compartments. Now you enter 50 all the way to age 75. And everything that I mentioned before is happening and getting worse. But now we have something new to deal with: bone loss, bone remodeling. And it is bone loss, bone remodeling that causes you to look elderly. That's it. And I show what that looks like. Most patients, they have no clue about bone loss, bone remodeling. And when they hear that, you completely got their attention. They're interested. What can I do? And they're very interested to know it is something that I can do to help with bone loss, bone remodeling. And then I come in. I don't have to repeat myself again, because I'll be like, if I'm going to say this one more time, I'm going to shoot myself on the head. I'm a Scorpio, so I don't like repeating myself.
Me too. We're both are. Yeah.
All right. No wonder you're so sexy.
Shino, we're actually born on the same day. We've got the same birthday. Weird, huh?
2nd of November. Yeah.
2nd November, both of us.
November 4th.
There you go.
Oh, there we go. That's why we get on so well.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
I think that's a really good tip, Shino. And for those that are listening that don't have cosmetic consultants, this is something that you can probably pre-record and you can do it as many times until you get it right. And that could be something that automatically gets emailed to your patients, new patients, when they make a booking with you. And this is how you start to separate yourself from all the other people in your space, your competitors. Having that video that educates them on the aging process just completely changes the dynamic of how that first meeting is going to go. What do you think, Jay?
Yeah, look, well, firstly, you establish your expertise.
Yeah.
And like Shino said, you don't have to think about it. It's play and forget kind of thing. But, some patients are not receptive, especially in a conversation. And you're using these clunky flip boards by all the pharma companies, and it just doesn't work sometimes. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. So I like the idea of the video.
Yeah.
Do you remember years ago, we had an American injector called David Mabry?
Yes.
And he had something similar in his clinic. He called it Filler 101.
Yeah.
And he plays a video where he talks about what filler is, what does it look like? He plays with it. He talks about what is this stuff that's going in your face? And it's kind of a similar thing to warm patients up to the idea of, well, what's this stuff going in your face? So, you could add this stuff on to Shino's video and make it 10 minutes.
Yeah.
But really educate people in a way that's, edited nicely and presented in a manageable way.
Yeah. And
I like it.
And you could do like different videos for different categories of patients. So, different age groups or what they're indicated for. You might have like 5 or 6 different videos that go out to people and, establishes rapport and it saves you time.
Yeah.
And as you said, Shino, you don't have to repeat yourself and feel like a broken record. I really like that.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's good. Can we see it? Can we get your video? Or is that proprietary information?
Sure.
I've got a question. So people who maybe don't know you, you're quite a philosophical person. I think you've even said it, you're quite a spiritual person. And you've actually blended dermatology aesthetics with the concept of energy and spirituality. Like it might sound to some people a little bit sort of out there, but it's your thing. It's how you, I guess, communicate with patients. It's even how you deliver some of your talks. So what do you mean by it? Can you summarize it for people?
Yeah, I mean, everything is energy. And what we do in our practice, we healers. We are not saving life, or we are changing life. And the changes that we give to these people's life, it will affect longevity in the future. Because if you are a 60-year-old woman, because it's very important for a woman, and she looks 40. If you're 60 and you look 20 years younger, your chronological age, I promise you that she's going to be doing young things. She's going to still dress young. She's going to go to the gym. She's going to go dancing. She's going to feel relevant. She's going to feel beautiful. That translates into a better health span on the 70s and 80s and 90s. When a woman gets to 60 and she does not look young for herself, she starts to feel and make herself invisible and adopt a persona that doesn't allow to continue to move. They get depressed, they change completely. And on top of that, they have to deal with being postmenopausal for a long time, which that adds a whole different dimension. So I think for me, when I go into the room, the idea is to educate my patients how to live the best life. And I prepare them for that. And I'm successful at that. I give them a spiritual facelift, because aging could be very scary. The aging process is very scary. No matter who you are, it bothers you when you see that maybe you cannot be as fast as you are when you were younger, when you run, or you cannot lift weight a lot, or your back goes out, or your knee. All these things that you start getting a lot of losses and less gains. But if you look younger, you still behave that way and act that way. So there's a huge spiritual component of youth and beauty. I tell my patients that beauty and age has, yes, you may want to say that it has something to do with what you look like, but it's not, if you think about it. It has to do with how other people experience you. So I have met beautiful people, beautiful models, and they open their mouth and it's like, ugh. And they turn into just a piece of furniture that's good to look at, but they don't contribute anything to my experience. And the same thing with youth. I have a friend, he's 80 years old, another one is 37. I'd rather spend my time with the 80 years old because he's so full of life and he wants to do things and he's energetic, and the other one is so boring and depressed. So youth and beauty is an experience that you share with others. And it has nothing to do with what you look like, because what you look like, that can last only a fraction of a second. You can enamor somebody for a fraction of a second until they open their mouth and you're like, yes, next.
Yeah, it's super interesting. I completely agree. And I almost have the same chat with my patients, but I'm a very unspiritual person. Maybe I am and I don't know it. I don't see it in a spiritual way, but I see it in a human way. It's like we all want to live a good life. We all want to enjoy relationships and work and have friends, and we don't want to get old and feel miserable, basically. Like you said, we're sort of enabling people to put their best foot forward by, removing some minor insecurities. We're not injecting antidepressants into people. We're just making them more confident. It's a subtle but important point. And I guess the reason I'm delving into this, because our regulator here in Australia has almost got a big problem with what we're doing, because they're saying everything we do is superficial and not valuable. And I think we as an industry are struggling to explain what we're doing. It's seen as silly, trivial, superficial, vain, and, unnecessary. And sure, it's not necessary to get Botox. Like, I'm the first to say that to patients, but what we can do for people is really powerful. And I just don't think that we're taken seriously sometimes because we're not communicating this message properly.
Yeah, I actually published about 3 years ago on Prime Magazine, was psychosocial aspect of aging. And what I published was about, especially that 60-year-old woman, that what we do matters. What we do really goes beyond vanity. What we're doing now is going to help the healthcare system everywhere globally. Because if you get people that are taking care of themselves and make them look younger for their chronic age, they will continue to do young things. That will translate into better health. And that will help the healthcare system. Because in the year, I think it's 2050, we're going to be 80 million elderly patients. And we better have them be healthy. Because imagine having 80 million elderly people that are sick. That's going to break anybody's healthcare system. And we're going to be worse than what we are experiencing now in the healthcare system of America. So what I do translate in better healthcare system and longevity. So it's not vanity. A little bit of vanity, healthy vanity, is important, because if it wasn't for vanity, you won't brush your teeth today or take a shower and get infections of all sorts. Vanity, a little bit, is a healthy amount of vanity is okay. It's when it becomes like body dysmorphia type of thing, where it becomes very unhealthy, when you obsess and preoccupy with the aging process or staying beautiful. That's where we have a problem. But that's where we are here. We are here not only to work with our hands, we are here to guide them, because it is an aesthetic journey. My relationship with my patient doesn't end when they leave. I make sure that I am there for every step of the way. I tell them when they need to get their eyes done and their facelift. I actually dictate when they're going to go, because they depend on my guidance in order to do so.
Yeah. I mean, what do you think, David? You're the lay
about what's in the industry?
Well, how we present ourselves. You've owned clinics, you've been part of advertising campaigns, you've been a patient. Like, where's the balance here?
Well, I think the issue is that our industry is still very young. We're still finding our way. I mean, we're really, like 25? When did Botox come out? Like 30 years ago? Something like this? I think we're still finding our way in terms of like other areas of medicine. We're very, very young. And I think that, like everything, sometimes you need to go too far before you realize that you're there, and then you sort of walk it back and you start to find like a sensible middle ground. So I think the fact that we're still finding our way, there's no consistency with training, social media plays a big role in perception of things. I think the extreme cases of things that go wrong and people that overdo it, they become synonymous with our industry, because you only notice the work that's too much. And I think that it's great media content, and it gets covered heavily. And I think that people associate our industry with all the extreme cases. But I think as we're moving forward, especially as we move more into natural looking results, regenerative medicine, how it's now converging, or that intersection's happening with wellness, anti-aging, diet, exercise. We've got lots of new treatments that are focusing on, like you were talking about, Shino, with using the body's own capacity to regenerate itself rather than trying to fill it with artificial tissue. I think it's just going to happen as we mature as an industry and things start to merge together. We become better at what we do. We understand where the boundaries are. Yeah. But, like the filler thing, I don't think anyone, when they first started out, intended to overfill people, but it's just, the process of time. Okay, we've learned that's too much. These products become potentially distorted over time, especially as bone starts to be, absorbed, and the product becomes more hydrophilic over time. So we're kind of learning. So I think it's going to sort itself out. But I think to those people that say that it's vain, I mean, as you said, Shino, I mean, people get up every day, women, they put makeup on, they wear nice clothes, lipstick, perfume. Vanity is important because it motivates us to put our best foot forward. And I think perception is reality. If you perceive yourself in a certain way, then we all know that about the placebo effect. You can almost start to self-manifest, the way that you are. So I think it's all interconnected. And I think the more that this industry progresses, we're learning that everything is one and the same.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally agree. I've got a question, Shino. So I've seen you talk, David. You saw Shino talk probably a month ago.
Yep.
You're a ball of energy. You're not shy. You dance and, you wear whatever you like and you say whatever you like. But how do you learn to do that? Were you always like that? Or did you have to learn to be comfortable in yourself? And the reason I ask is because there'll be many injectors maybe want to be a trainer one day or a speaker one day. Some people aspire to that, some don't. Fair enough. But many people have the biggest fear is public speaking and sort of being themselves, I guess. So how do you do that?
I don't know. I mean, I know that when I was younger in elementary school, I talked way too much. I always get in trouble for talking during the class. Well, there was a reason for it. When I went to my first grade, I already knew how to write and read because Sesame Street, right? But I was bullied a lot, and I was not passed to the higher grades because they were afraid that the older kids would bully me even worse than what I was getting in first grade. So while they were learning the vowels, so of course I'm going to be talking because there's nothing for me to do. But then I never stopped talking until sixth grade, and then I became very shy and introverted. And I didn't talk ever again. I was a very shy person. Like I would go to a party, I would not talk to anyone. But I feel like everything started from that moment when I tried to save the day with Sanoshur lasers, because I remember my partner when he said, "Are you sure you want to do this?" And I did it for the goodness of my heart. And when he says, "Okay, do it," I'm all like, what I have done. I never spoke in front of anybody other than morning report to my peers. And I have a very thick accent. And I started shaking, but you know what? I went there, I spoke from the heart, and I learned that I have something special. I connect with people. It doesn't matter that my accent was heavy. I'm able to simplify concepts that are really hard to understand like laser physics, laser medicine, in a way that if there's a 5-year-old boy or girl in the audience, they need to understand exactly what I'm saying. So I use a lot of analogies and stuff like that. I remember that once I started getting other companies notice me, Merck, Galderma, they always wanted to teach you how to public speak. And I bought some books, I took the courses, and then I realized that if I did that, I was just going to be cookie cutter like everybody else. And I had something that I didn't want to lose, that a lot of people don't have. It's like somehow I connect with the audience in a way that if you go to a lecture of mine, if my voice crack, everybody cries in the audience. If I laugh, they laugh. So I feel this connection with the audience. And I feel like if I were to continue taking courses like they wanted me to, or getting rid of my accent, or trying to read books, I will lose this essence that is me and this connection that I can shift when I get on stage.
Yeah. I really resonate with that because I'm new to public speaking as well. So when I was in Sweden, I saw you in the audience and Offia and all these other people who I've, seen on social media. I'm like shitting myself going, oh my God, like I feel nervous and trying to find my voice. So I completely relate with what you're saying. And I think that's even transferable to people in their clinics around how do they have a point of difference, to being, I guess, scared to be themselves. I want to be like everyone else. And then you just kind of become invisible. And then you maybe end up with patients that you don't really connect with because not every patient's going to be matched to every injector. You're going to have your people who you connect with naturally. So I think being brave enough to like find that voice, just be yourself, be comfortable with people that potentially aren't going to connect with you. And that's okay. You can't be friends with everybody, or not everyone's going to feel that connection to you. So I think it's, be yourself, be comfortable with everyone, not everyone liking you, but for the people that you connect with, really having an impact on them and really getting that message across.
Yeah. Okay, guys, that is the end of part 1 of Injector Diaries with Shino. We're going to cut this into 2 halves just because we've got so much to talk about. So listen out for the next episode. We'll publish this next week.
Yeah. What's coming out in episode 2? Let's give people a taste.
Episode 2 is all the good stuff. It's all about Sculptra, Radiesse, products that Shino chooses, his protocols, his techniques, his blending of different products together. And of course, all the typical stuff that we do with Injector Diaries, like, what's your favorite toxin, favorite HA filler, and of course, our recurring questions.
Yes, exactly. All right.
So listen out for part 2 of this episode next week. For our latest news, follow us on Instagram at Inside Aesthetics Podcast. If you want to get in touch with myself or David, follow us on Instagram as well at Dr. Jake Sloan and David_Inside Aesthetics.
Join our Patreon for invaluable business and injectable education. Get access to our global community of like-minded professionals, live and interactive Zoom sessions, hints and tip videos, webinars, and more. Head over to www.insideaesthetics.com/Patreon for more information.